Hi, Babblers. Welcome back to Babblings. Happy Monday, everyone. I hope everyone is having a fabulous start to their week. And if you're not, that's okay. You still have time to turn it around and maybe you don't want to turn it around. Sometimes I have those weeks where I'm like, I don't want to turn it around. I just want to sulk in the shitty week and then start over next week. So if that's you and your Monday's already shit, I love you so much. You're going to be fine. Next week, you can start again. I am at my aunt's other house for the moment because I had a great weekend, just like hanging out with family, getting together. My sister turned 17, so got to spend some time with her, hang out with the family. And then the AC went out at my mom's house. So I'm like staying with my mom right now. And then the AC went out. And so it's just like really too hot. And this is after a month of staying with my stepdad who like does not turn the air conditioning on. And it was like 95 degrees in Maryland. And it was like a month of hell. Love him so much. So glad, grateful to have places to stay and people to support me. But, you know, you know, turn turn the air conditioning on, you know? Sometimes it's just like, just turn it on, you know? Let's just have a little reprieve. I think it'll be okay if we just turn the air conditioning on for a little bit, but now my mom's air conditioning is out, so we're staying at my aunt's house, which I'm loving because I'm loving filming outside. And so this is like the perfect place, another perfect place to film outside. Maybe next week, if my mom's AC is back on, I'll film outside at my mom's house. But yeah, I'm really loving filming outside and like being in the element. I'm loving the background. And because I have this new microphone that I told you guys about last week, it makes it easier to record like cleaner audio outside. We are like in more of like a city-ish area, so we'll see car alarms have been going off, kids are walking around, people are outside living their lives. I'm not going to ask them to stop because I'm recording this little thing. So we'll see, if I have to move inside because it's too noisy or something. But if not, I feel like, I don't know, I like kind of the background of the podcast just being the sounds of life, whether it be the sounds of nature, people just living their lives. It's like the afternoon. So, people could be on their way home from work or out or who knows, whatever they're doing. I've loved like hanging out and being with family and seeing everyone, and it's been great. But it's just reminded me the last couple of weeks because it's been so much. Like I really am an introvert. I really do need that time to rest and recuperate and like time to myself. And I'm working on my getting up in the mornings earlier because I'm just like not an early riser and I want to be because I have all of these things I want to do in the morning. If I do them at noon, after like laying in bed scrolling for hours and then I finally get up at noon, well, like the day is over then. So working on just trying to like get up earlier, get out of bed quicker, and like do the things I want to do to start my day off right. But another thing that has reminded me is that like I'm not nice in the morning. It's not that I'm not nice. I'm nice in the morning. It's just like I can't do a lot of like chitter chatter or like or like being in my face like right in the morning. I need a slow start. I need quiet. I want my music. I need to like have my own thoughts in my head and like go through them and like also like process whatever crazy thing I was dreaming about because I always have crazy dreams. And then like an hour later after I've had my coffee, then I'm ready to be a person and converse and like engage. But right away, it gives me so much anxiety. And when there's a house full of people, ever since I was little, and I realized this weekend, like I still have the same anxiety when there's a house full of people or like all my family's together, whatever, waking up in the morning. I hate waking up and going downstairs in the morning because everybody's like, oh my gosh, there you are. Da, da, da. And it just feels like so much attention on me, which is dumb because it's just people like excited to see me and people that love me and care for me and enjoy me and like, yay, you're here so you can talk to us. Like we miss you. But like for me, it's always been so overwhelming. And I still get that feeling in the morning where I'm like, oh God, like I don't want to go downstairs. I don't want everybody to look at me. I don't want everybody to acknowledge me. I just want to like get up, have my coffee, and then say hello. I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is, but apparently it's not going away. I'm also such a person that wants to do what I want to do. So if I'm up in the morning and everybody else is, chitter chattering or doing different things and it like distracts me from like what I want to do. Like, no, I want to have my coffee and then I want to go journal and I want to sit outside and I want to like meditate for a moment. I maybe want to pull some tarot cards. I want to do my things. I want to do my routine. I want to pour into myself for a little bit and then I can be a person. But when I'm really out of that routine just in general, because like there has to be balance, right? So it's when you're with family or you're on vacation or you're doing something out of like the day-to-day norm, I need to be okay with like having a different routine, or doing it in a different order, or being okay that like people are excited to see me when I get up in the morning. But especially when in my day-to-day normal life, I'm not doing those routines and I'm not feeding into myself and I'm not journaling and meditating and pulling my cards, then it feels like even extra like anxious about wanting to do my things when I'm like on vacation or around people, because now it's everybody else's fault that I can't do my things. But really, I'm just annoyed that I'm out of my routine in general and haven't been doing the things that I wanted to do when I had the time and it was like appropriate to do that. It's just funny and still surprises me sometimes how self-centered anxiety is. How much I'm worry like, oh, I don't want people to talk to me when I get up. I want to get up with my head down. Like that makes me so nervous. Like what? People loving you makes you nervous, Allie? Like that's so dumb. People being excited to see you makes you anxious? Like you're a fucking weirdo? But it's my anxiety, and anxiety can be so self focused about what we're doing or how people perceive us. Anxiety just really feeds off of the ego and feeds off of, at least for me, maybe this isn't for everyone, and it's not the only thing, but it definitely feeds off of my ego thinking everything's about me when in reality, it's not about me. People are living their own lives in their own heads, not really worried about what I'm doing or how I'm talking or what I'm saying or what time I get up in the morning. People are more worried about themselves, and it's just me, like it it's just my anxiety feeding off of that like ego of thinking, everybody's paying attention to me when realistically, no, like nobody cares. Which acknowledging that and trying to correct that and work on that has helped a lot with my anxiety. And like I say, like it's not the only thing, like all of my anxiety isn't derived from my ego, but it is a big part of that. And it is in nature a very like self-centered disorder. And also just being confident in myself really helps my anxiety. Like, is everybody looking at me in my bathing suit? Is everybody, watching how I eat? Or did it? No, nobody's looking at you. They're worried about themselves or they're doing their own things. There's like the lightest, mistiest rain going on right now, and it's so pretty because it's just like super gentle and I'm getting splashes every once in a while, but it just looks so beautiful and misty over like the trees and all the beautiful yards and all the old. We're in like the historic district, so it's like all of my favorite, just like old historic Victorian houses. I'm living my best life right now. Coffee intermission. There's a black cat behind me, you guys. I miss my Celine. She's with my aunt at her other house. I know some people would say black cats are a bad omen, but for me, that is a good luck sign. I wish you could see her. She's so cute. Hi. Hi, pretty kitty. She's prowling around in the mist. She must be hunting something. All right, before we get into current events, let's go ahead and pull a card for you guys for this week. I already went ahead and meditated, pre-shuffled the deck for you guys, so I am very curious and very interested to see what's going to unfold. We'll do a little bit of extra shuffling. Hold on, let me move this table. I found what was so interesting, though, after my pre-shuffle and meditating on it, on the bottom of the deck, the Death card. Ooh, with Four of Swords. So, I think before we even get into it, I'm just going to take the Death card out. I feel like I need to take the Death card out. Five of Swords, Nine of Swords. I'm already getting the message. Sorry. Wow. We are transforming, or you are transforming, or rebirthing, or removing yourself from negative mental energy, getting out of your own way, getting out of secrets and lies and mental competition, mind games with other people that maybe you play or that people are playing with you, getting out of this place of like being up all night in your head, overthinking, overanalyzing. It's coming to an end. But let's see what else they have to say. Yeah, it's coming to an end. The Wheel of Fortune? Are you fucking kidding me? Wow. I love when Death and the Wheel of Fortune come out together because it really just confirms for me that not only is something ending, but something like really beautiful is beginning. And the Death card is not a scary card. I always tell people that. Even the Devil card is not a scary card. There are no scary cards in tarot. And every card has a good and a bad meaning. But the death card specifically for me is, well, one, it's related to Scorpio. It's all about transmuting energy, letting something die in order for it to begin again, right? It's like winter and the fall, like watching all of the plants die, watching it slumber for them to bloom even greater next year. It's letting a habit or a mindset or a relationship or a theme of your life come to an end, and sometimes things must die in order for things to like begin again. And then with the Wheel of Fortune, I just think that's so beautiful. So let's see what else is in here for you guys for this week. Six of Swords and the Six of Pentacles. Yeah, your luck is really changing. Really interesting with the sixes here. With the Six of Swords being about you taking an action to remove yourself, whether just physically, emotionally, or mentally, from whatever needs to end or whatever's dying, having that instinct to go ahead and walk away from that, to go to with the Six of Swords, what instantly comes to my mind is moving to calmer waters. You're literally removing yourself from something toxic or just something outdated, an outdated version of yourself, an outdated relationship, an outdated thought pattern, and moving into something positive. And with the Six of Pentacles, I love getting sixes because fives are a hard number. They're about change. They can be about rough times, especially in tarot. And six is coming out of that. Six is not necessarily being at 10, right? 10 of Cups or 10 of Pentacles. It's not necessarily the complete opposite of a hard time or a change, but it's that first step of like redirection, that first step of like pulling yourself up out of those hard five times, or patterns, or just like chapters in your life. And I think so, like, I just love six. It's a really beautiful number because it's okay, we're moving on, we're moving forward. And the Six of Pentacles is a really fun card because it's a really expansive card. It means a lot of things. It's a really wide ranging card, and so sometimes it's actually hard for me to read a little bit, but this is actually coming up very clear, especially with the seeing the Five of Swords and the Five of Swords and the Nine of Swords in the deck previously to tell us like what is ending. It's telling me that there's like balance coming into your life. The Six of Pentacles is all about give and take. And so there is a sense that you are changing directions, moving into calmer waters. So it's not only are you making the decisions, but I also feel with the Wheel of Fortune, the universe is also reacting to those decisions you're making and helping balance the scales, giving back to you what you've been giving, interceding, or having someone or a group of people in your life be willing to meet you where you are, and to go from there. I don't know if any of that makes sense. The Four of Cups has come out with the Queen of Cups on the bottom. Oh, I must have shuffled this weird and accidentally but I'm not taking like reversals. Let me look at this for a second. Yeah, with the Four of Cups and then again seeing the Five of Swords and the Nine of Swords, you've really been dwelling on something. You have been dwelling on maybe something negative that you did, something negative that somebody did to you. Maybe you were playing mind games. Maybe you were lying. Maybe you were keeping secrets and it was keeping you up all night, or you're really overthinking or overanalyzing it. You were ruminating over something that either somebody did to you or that you did to somebody, and you were missing out on new opportunities or new people or new adventures, and you weren't seeing, because you were dwelling so much on whatever this negative thing was, you weren't seeing all of the good things. But now that you've made that Six of Swords decision to change directions, to pull yourself out of that Four of Cups, like woe is me, like like man, I never get anything, like this sucks, like when you're not even seeing like that you have something positive going right here. Now that you're pulling yourself out of that energy, now that you're bringing death to whatever that toxic thing was, the world, the universe is rewarding you, changing your fortune, meeting you where you're at, and trying to help you like balance the scales. So let's just get really quickly, any advice for moving forward. So this is maybe just a confirmation for somebody, or to let you know that, like, yes, you're doing the right thing by changing directions, you're doing the right thing by letting something end and moving forward onto greener pastures. Advice: Nine of Cups, Four of Pentacles. Can I get one more for advice? One more for advice. That's four, and I wanted one. Here she is. Nine of Cups, Four of Pentacles, and the Nine of Wands. I'm loving, we're getting so many repeating numbers. And I just split the deck to the World card. Yeah, cycles are finishing. Negative cycles are ending in your life and you're leveling up, but the advice is that you have to continue doing the work. With the Nine of Wands, the Four of Pentacles, and the Nine of Cups, sometimes we get a little too satisfied and complacent in where we are because we think we've got X, Y, and Z and we've got everything we've had, or you've like, okay, well, this little thing happened, or I've got all my ducks in a row. Kind of back to the Four of Cups energy, especially with the Four of Pentacles. The advice here is really to not make sure that you don't stay in a place of greed, whether that be like with money, financially greedy, or emotionally greedy. The Four of Pentacles talks a lot about restriction and hoarding assets. And the Nine of Cups is a beautiful wish fulfillment card, which tells me that your wish fulfillment is on the way. But also sometimes the Nine of Cups can be like, I read this in a tarot book one time, they referred to the Nine of Cups as like the fat cat or the lazy cat, where you're hoarding, so you've got so much, you've hoarded so much that you've become a bit lazy or a bit complacent, or you're a bit too on your high horse, you're a bit too much you're feeling a bit too superior to others because of all of the things that you have. So yes, the wish fulfillment is coming, yes, it's leading in the right direction, but you can't be complacent and you can't be greedy, especially with the Nine of Wands. There's a sense of it'll still be difficult. You still have to keep pushing, and maybe some of the things that you have to keep pushing forward and fighting against are yourself, and yourself falling back into these old patterns or old behaviors that kept you stuck in this like toxic cycle. The Nine of Cups is a beautiful card, and usually for me it is about wish fulfillment, but it's really pulling to me today the way that he's standing there with his arms crossed and his cups, and looks like he's looking at like, yeah, look, I got all nine cups, I'm cooler, I'm better, I don't have to keep trying a bit. It's really that's really standing out to me today. So yeah, so I mean, this is beautiful. Something is ending and something new is beginning, and it should be positive for you, and looks like it's going to really balance the scales and give to you what you give to it. But I think that is the catch. You're going to get what you give, and the advice is to make sure that you've made one step, but you have to keep going. It's not just one step in the right direction. You have to keep following that journey, and you have to keep fighting to not fall back into those toxic patterns and behaviors in order to get from the universe what you give it, or whatever, or a new project, or whatever is transforming in your life. Yeah, that's the tea. As always, if it doesn't resonate, don't take it. This may be for somebody very particular. It feels kind of like it feels a little specific specific. I guess let me see. Can I get any more specific about what this is about or what's transforming? Can we get any more clarity there? This wanted to come out. What is this? The Ten of Cups. Oh, wow. With the well on the bottom and the chariot and the higher one. The Ten of Cups. Okay, so I mean, what's transforming? This is definitely like emotional and maybe relationships with family, but also maybe what you envisioned was your destiny or what you envisioned was going to bring you I've made it. The Ten of Cups is that like I'm fulfilled emotionally, I'm fulfilled creatively. It's different than the Ten of Pentacles. The Ten of Pentacles is a lot more about like being fulfilled in all those ways, but also being very like financially secure. What's transforming is maybe what you thought your happily ever after would be. And honestly, I always think that that's a good thing because we oftentimes get stuck in our heads of what we think success for happily ever after looks like. And this is making the Nine of Cups make a lot more sense now of why I was getting such like ick energy off of it when usually I get like happy energy off of it, because 9 is a step below 10. And so it's saying don't get stuck in this energy of where you think that you have finally found success and found your happily ever after when you know it's really not yours and you're actually at a 9 and you're not at a 10, which would be like full integration, full completion, like actual happily ever after. So don't get stuck in like the almost good enough, like the Four of Cups. Don't get stuck in like well, I have all these cups. So when really like the most magical cup of all that'll really complete you is just behind you, but you don't see it. I hope that made sense. I'm really loving doing the tarot readings for you guys now because I mean, I love reading cards, but I mostly just do it for myself. And it is harder to read for myself actually than it is to read for who knows who, like to read for strangers or to read for like even people that I know, because the cards can have so many different meanings. And because I'm an overthinker, it's hard for me when I'm doing it for myself to tune in to my first intuition without being like, oh, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. Where when I'm reading for someone that I potentially don't know who I'm reading for, or just I know who I am, but I don't really know what I'm reading on, like it's for them to draw the conclusions. It's easier to go with like my gut instinct of like what the cards are trying to tell me. So I have a lot of fun reading on here for you guys. If you like it, let me know in the comments. I want to keep doing it. I don't want to turn into like a weird, not weird, but you know what I mean. I don't want to turn into like oh, there she goes with the tarot online again. Like it's not a it's mostly about connecting with you guys, and genuinely I hope that somebody gets some sort of like clarity and advice from me doing these. That's genuinely what it's for, which is why I always say like read the timestamps, skip through if you want to, take it if you want it, like literally don't if you don't want it at all. That's totally fine. It's not for everyone, but I really enjoy doing it, and so I hope you guys too. So let me know if you enjoy these tarot sections. I just do it and I read very intuitively. We'll do a spread sometimes if I need some, like if I'm having a hard time getting down to specifics, but I read very intuitively and how it comes out is how I read it. But if there's something you want more, if you want me to read on more specific aspects of life, like love and relationships or career and finances, like let me know. And I totally can do that. If you want it shorter, if you want it longer, I've strayed away from the one card only. I started kind of one card only. Now I just can't help it but like actually do a real reading for you guys. But if you want me to go back to one card, or if you want me to do a series on all of the cards one at a time, I would love to do that too, but I just don't know if that's something people would want from me, because there's many amazing readers on the internet that are also just here authentically, not trying to push an agenda, but just wanting to like give you information and hopefully help you find clarity and advice that I would love to direct you to if that's something you feel like you like. If the way I read doesn't resonate with you, everybody reads really differently, so I would love to try to help you connect with people that would maybe read in a fashion that relates to you more. Just let me know. Just let me know. Let me know. Comment below. When I was outlining this episode and looking at current events, I was like, I don't want to talk about any of this because one, it's just like depressing. And sometimes I'm in the mood to get into hard topics, and sometimes I'm not. And I don't want this podcast to turn into a completely political podcast because that's not what it is. It's called Babblings. But because I'm a multifaceted person, and this is literally, I say it all the time, my self portrait that I like, the blog, the podcast, it's my multimedia self portrait, then it also has to be multifaceted. And there's no way that I could like put something out that's a representation of me that is not political, because there's nothing in this world that's not political or, deals with ethics or morality. And I've seen a couple of takes online just about how, Love Island or pop culture right now is a distraction from everything going on in our United States government, which is totally true and totally valid. It is. And some people need to know that. But I think also at the same time, I have a hard time, and I go back and forth about this all the time, about art and about music and about fashion and about clothing, because it's like, what does this all mean in the context of like people being ethnically cleansed or having their rights stripped away? Like, what? That doesn't mean anything in the context that this is. But also at the same time, art and music and fashion are ways for people to express themselves creatively and connect with other people, and for us to find moments of humanity and connection amongst all of the craziness. And that can even be like reality TV, where we find a little bit, a piece of escapism. And because if it was all bad all the time, it would be miserable. Which you could argue maybe that's what we need, is all bad all the time in order for us to really rise up and create change. But I think the bigger picture is not condemning people for enjoying something that's a bit frivolous while all of these very serious and like not frivolous things are happening. Instead of condemning them for doing that, I think it's important to give people other choices, right? To remind people that you should be consuming many, many, many different things from many, many, many different sources. I know there's a lot of distrust in like traditional media right now and news outlets, which they've earned that distrust because of how things are reported on or covered up. But also at the same time, we can't be getting all of our news from TikTok. And I have to remind myself this too, because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just another echo chamber. We can't have real objective views and an objective idea of what's going on in this world if we're only getting our information from one place that is also designed just to feedback loop us exactly what we want to hear and what we want to interact with. And sometimes that means watching media that, one, you don't agree with, or two, you have to take with a grain of salt and know that they may be keeping some things from you. So watching media that you don't agree with, I think, is really important. Like watching news channels or outlets that you don't agree with, watching like influencers or commentators or people like that you don't agree with, I think is really important, because it's really important to know what other people on the other side from you are actually saying, what they're actually saying, how they actually think, so that you can understand how they've gotten to that point, and then also understand why you differ and think so differently than them, and how you could also then actually debate their answers. You can't actually debate someone or actually correct someone or actually inform and teach someone if you don't know how they actually think or why they think that way. And then two, we still have to be supporting, to some extent, traditional media. And that means, though, being careful. I'm all about, publicly funded media. So PBS, NPR, there are tons and tons and tons and tons, and I can link them below, of independent news sites that are not funded by the government whatsoever, which PBS is, because I looked into, I was like deep diving the other day and like looking at PBS's financial reports, and about half of their funding comes from the government. And then NPR, I think NPR is, I don't know for sure. I can't say for sure, but I'm just going to lean on the side of cautious and say that NPR is similar to PBS, where they're getting funding like grants from the government. And so we have to take that into account, right? There is a bit of sway there when you're receiving money from the government. They have a bit more pull, especially with the current administration wanting to defund and cut funding for these public outlets. But then you also have to understand the other half of that is public funding, is memberships. And so they also have a duty, and they know that they have a duty to do real, like, an unbiased journalism. And then there's also lots of, like I said, independent news outlets that do not get any government funding, but you also still have to pay attention to that as well, because is this an opinion piece? Is this just somebody writing? Are they a real journalist? Have they really gone out into the field? Have they really done their research? Like, are there citations or things to be able to follow up on and explore and go deeper? That's really important when you're looking at how you're getting your news. And then also, and I love TikTok, like, I'm never gonna not like, I cite TikTok videos all the time on my blog because there are some really important and really impressive people on TikTok giving some real, authentic, unbiased, and educational information, especially when people are giving firsthand accounts on TikTok. I think that that's super important when someone is on scene at a disaster or on the ground in a war and they're showing you what is going on. That's going to always supersede, a more traditional media reporting on those same things. But just like you have to diversify where you get the news, I think you also diversify just in general the media you consume. And I think it's okay to clock into Love Island every night at 9 p.m., as long as the rest of the day you're also looking at the news or what's going on, or you're reading. You're not just listening, but you're also reading articles, or you're investigating and you're discovering. Everything is about balance. And so, no, let's not condemn people for, being like falling into the tricks of the machine and being distracted by this popular media and pop culture right now. Let's not condemn them, but let's give them resources and a view of how they can be consuming that, but also be consuming what's really going on in the world. A lot of those videos that I saw, I do agree, right? Because we're all talking about Love Island while at the same time, the big, beautiful bill is being passed and signed by the president, which is scary. Now, this and the other thing I'm going to talk about, I really don't have a lot to talk about. And I don't really want to talk about it because I just don't want to, I just don't want to get into all of the corruptness and like the craziness of it all. And it's going to bring me down. And I already did all of, I've done my time of being down. I want to be a little bit up and have a little bit of fun with you guys, but these are still important things to talk about, and I can't come on here and be like, yeah, let's talk about Love Island and being authentically yourself without noting also these other things that are going on that are going to impact us for generations. So I've linked a couple videos, I think two videos for the big beautiful bill for you to go ahead, listen to them. One of them by, I believe it's Money Talks, but it's linked below, and I'll identify. It's the long, super informative video where he has read all 900 pages of the big beautiful bill and has broken it down by segment by segment. It's a very objective, unbiased, like literal educational video about what is in the bill and what that could mean. Which, one thing I do want to know, is interesting that someone said in the comments of this video that I didn't pick up while I was watching it, but they did, and I was like, oh my god, that's so true. A lot of the things that are going into effect immediately are the more, quote, positive parts of the bill. And then those things that are going to really impact us negatively, like changing the criteria for Medicaid or capping graduate loans, those kinds of things are going to go into effect, maybe not even this year, but later down the line, which I also think is interesting. And this person pointed out in the comments, right after an election cycle, which, definitely on purpose. So, like, for now, it's going to look like great, but in a couple of years, all of these things are going to come home to roost. Basically, what's happening is a redistribution of funds. cutting programs, cutting funding to programs, changing criteria for programs so that we don't have to spend as much there, so that we can spend more money on other things. And if you listen to the video, you can decide whether putting those money, redirecting that money flow, if you think that that's a good move or not. Spoiler alert, it's not. The other thing heavily on my mind right now is alligator Alcatraz. And yes, I looked it up, and a spokesperson for the Florida Attorney General said that the detention center in the Florida Everglades is actually called Alligator Alcatraz. It's not just some silly name they made to sell shirts. I'm going to link a couple resources for you to below so that you can dive deeper into Alligator Alcatraz and get more information on it, cuz once again, we're not deep diving on these politics. I'm giving you the resources. You deep dive yourself. But one of the articles I'm going to link is called Don't Call It Alligator Alcatraz, Call It a Concentration Camp. And I think it's a really important, it's an opinion piece, but I think it's a really important article. And the woman who wrote it, she actually has done a lot of research into concentration camps historically. And this is something that I've been saying, and it really got me thinking about how when we are not educated properly on history, like the huge ramifications of that are that we're not able to name the patterns when they repeat again. So when people don't know the history of concentration camps in America, when people don't think about how there were I don't know if they actually called them concentration camps, but they were for Native Americans when they rounded them up and then they put them in those schools. And then the Japanese internment camps during World War II, Japanese American US legal citizens were rounded up during World War II and put in these detention center slash concentration camp, internment camp, whatever you want to call it, where they would be killed if they were tried to leave. But nobody knows about that. I know about that because my mom knows about that. And my mom knows about that because when she was student teaching, she was doing a World War II unit and looking through books to read with her English class around World War II. And she found a book about this that was about this boy that was in a Japanese internment camp, and it completely rewrote everything she thought she knew about World War II and about America and about the US military. And then she decided to dive deep into that. And then she taught that to the kids that she was student teaching. She actually got reprimanded while teaching a unit about World War II, talking about the Japanese American internment camps in America, because it, quote, put the US military in a negative light, right? So if you don't know that, if I don't know that, if I didn't know that, I wouldn't have the back catalog to know that the United States government, and of course, right? I mean, the obvious one is slavery and the imprisonment of Black people continuously throughout the years. But like, if you don't have that like historical like context and knowledge to look at what is being done, it's harder for you to name Alligator Alcatraz as a concentration camp. It's harder for you to not only realize that this is not just for immigrants, but that the United States government has and can round up US citizens and put them in that same detention center because they don't agree with the politics going on, because they are not, quote, abiding by the law, or potentially because they're a part of a certain racial demographic. Yeah, so deep dive below, check it out. Those are the things that are on my mind that I just have to bring up. And again, I say, please diversify not only the media you're consuming, but the sources it's coming from. We cannot have objective opinions about things if we are not getting it from multiple sources. And especially if you're only getting it from TikTok and in your own echo chamber, where it's just feeding, looping back to you what you want to hear and what you agree with. Speaking of Love Island, your girl's been watching Love Island. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I watched Love Island last season. Loved it, obviously. Season 6, PPG forever. This season, man, is it controversial. And for so many reasons. I think it's so much fun to watch as a social experiment. I mean, you have to remember these people don't know what time it is, right? There's no clocks in the villa. These people don't know what time it is. They don't know about anything else happening in the world at all. They have no control over the food that they're being fed, what time they wake up, what time they go to bed. what day it is, they don't know. So it's super interesting to not only be on a reality TV show, but also be in these conditions. How do we as humans react and cope with that? While also mixing in the fact that it's hypersexual, very exploitative, and the goal really at the end is to win potentially 50K. And I think the problem with this season, which many people have said, I'm not the first person to say this, but the problem with this season is that nobody is being authentic. Everybody is trying to literally play the game of make me a reality star. The goal here is not necessarily to win 50K. The goal is not necessarily to fall in love. People are hoping to build a social platform that they can then return to and monetize if they don't already have a small following already. This hyper awareness of how they come off and how they're perceived and what the public will think shows up in their lackluster conversations, in the forced feeling connections, and not only just romantically, but these what feel forced friendships. And Love Island gets a lot of hate every season. Everybody's always like, it's not Friendship Island, it's Love Island. Because a lot of times when it comes to voting and the islanders are able to save someone, usually vote to save their friends, whether that's what would be perceived as the correct decision or not. But we have to have Friendship Island on Love Island, or else it's boring. The fun part of Love Island is seeing not just the romantic connections blossom, but also seeing the friendships blossom, or seeing friendships fall apart, or seeing how in this like hyper stylized and monitored situation, how we still can form different factions where we're for or against different people, or we group up into a situation where there's really like group think and we're over here and it's us versus them, or we all group thinking together. We're missing so much of what makes it interesting, which is watching how these people interact and form relationships with their potential romantic or their platonic relationships. Because everyone is doing what they think they should be doing. And I think that this is not new, right? I think anytime probably somebody goes on a show like this, some level of them is going to be doing what they think that they should be doing. Pop culture has become so washed by conservatism and modesty, and the whole princess treatment debate is going on right now. Demure and quiet and poised, instead of going on a reality TV show and saying, oh, I need to bring it, I need to be a big personality, I need to be loud, I need to be crazy, like most people usually do, which results in like good television. People are going on Love Island thinking, oh, I need to be poised, oh, I need to be demure, I need to be a little conservative, I need to be palatable, I need to be calm, I need to be a girl's girl or a guy's guy or whatever the fuck that means, instead of just being themselves and reacting to things how they would naturally react to things. The biggest example, I think, is Sierra, who did just get kicked off and out of the villa because of the racial slurs resurfacing that she put in an Instagram story in an Instagram caption, which rightfully so, she should be kicked off. She was initially seen as the public's favorite. People really enjoyed her. She was amassing a large following. But before all of the stuff about her using slurs came out, people were already starting to slowly not like her as much. And why? It's because you can only not be yourself for so long before it's apparent that you're curating an image or curating your responses in order to please and or do what you think the audience would want you to do or react well to. My first indication was from the jump with Sierra, because as soon as she said that her favorite like cartoon or whatever she said was Avatar The Last Airbender, and then she said, "Do Katara and Aang get together in that? I don't know." Girl, what? How can this be your favorite if you don't know how this shit fucking ends? Fake, one, or just not a real fan. And then when all of this stuff about the slurs came out, I realized that we actually went to the University of Arizona at the same time, and she was in Delta Gamma, and then it all kind of made sense. I've had many experiences with Arizona, born and raised girls that go to the University of Arizona and join a sorority, and the racism runs rampant. And then I realized she's also friends with Brooke Schofield, and then it all made sense that this is just another vapid influencer wannabe that has curated this image of herself that's completely false and actually really contradictory to her actual personality and beliefs. And yes, people can grow and change, but are you growing and changing, or are you just masking who you really are? Which led me to beg the question, how do you know if you're really being authentic? How do you know if you're truly being yourself? Over the years, this is actually a question that I've asked myself a lot. And the last couple of years, as I've really come home to myself and gotten confident in who I really am as a person, I realized that I spent a lot of time in my youth and my teen years worrying that I was a poser, worrying that I only liked certain things because other people like certain things, or I only liked certain things because it was a certain aesthetic. When we're young, and even sometimes we never grow out of it, but especially in high school, we try to slot ourselves into these different groups, right? Like, or these different aesthetics. As humans, we try to find commonality with other people and try to find or identify ways in which we are a part of a larger community. And I realized that while, yes, to an extent, maybe some of those things were true, I also was just anxious and overthinking. And I really do just like that kind of music, or I really do just dress this way because that's what I enjoy. Or I really do just like old movies because I like old movies. Or I really do just like books because I like reading books, you know? It's not just that I've curated an image for myself, it's that I've curated a life or curated an image based off of things that I actually like or that actually naturally appeal to me. And I'm not liking or doing or saying certain things out of thin air. Like, no, that's actually appealing to me from my core. Everybody wants to yell, be yourself, be authentic, be real, be you. But are they even doing that? Do people even know how to? Do people even realize that sometimes that they aren't being their true selves? We get so bogged down in these like identifiers and these communities, and we get stuck in these patterns where we maybe really are being ourselves, but maybe we're also fallen into the trap of assuming that this is who we are or who we're supposed to be. So we're going to act a certain way or do certain things because that's who we're supposed to be. I think a lot of times people don't have the time to really sit with themselves and say, do I really like the person I am? Do I really like the way that I dress? Do I really have actual opinions on things? Or am I just regurgitating what I hear other people saying and it sounds like it's something that I should align with? Because that's what you have to do. You have to get rid of the noise and the chaos going on. You have to get out of the slumber that is just day to day work and sleep and work and eat and sleep, and the routines that we get ourselves into, or the friend groups that just are easy to be around. And so that's who we end up hanging out with. We get stuck in the robotics of it all that we sometimes don't allow ourselves to really question why we're doing or acting in certain ways. To ask ourselves, are we being authentic? Am I being myself? But you can't be authentic and you can't be yourself if you don't even know what that looks like. If you've not even taken the time to discover that within yourself, of to listen to other music or to read other books or maybe dress a different way just to try it out, just to see, or to sit with yourself and say, what am I really drawn to? What's really actually alluring to me? And am I doing these things because it's actually what I want to do? Or am I doing these things because I assume that's what I'm supposed to be doing, or to please this community that I'm a part of because they say that's what I should be doing or liking or dressing or whatever. And with social media and like the hyper surveillance of how people act or what people say or how people move only really contributes to that feeling of having to act a certain way in order to be palatable or in order to be accepted. But I would rather somebody just be honest and say that they don't give a shit about different causes or they don't give a shit about different things because they really don't, instead of doing it because they think that that's what they're supposed to be doing. I'd rather somebody just be authentic than be a poser, even if it's for things that I technically agree with. Because you're doing things out of a fear of not doing it will mean you won't be accepted, or you like things in order to fit in with a certain crowd, or because you think it's what you should like, or if you're supporting different causes because it's like, well, this is what I should be doing, instead of actually wanting to support things, then that's not real. It's just superficial. You're just living your life superficially and really in service of other people because you're more worried about what other people are going to say. You're Sierra, who completely rebranded herself into this like woo woo goddess, feminine goddess, when really she's like a racist. And again, not saying that people can't grow and change, but you can't put a band aid on a bullet wound. You have to go in to surgically remove the bullet and then stitch it back up and then maybe wrap it in some gauze and wait and take the time for it to heal. Wait for the time for it to scab over. You can't just change the way you dress or change the way you talk and all of a sudden you're not a racist anymore. That's not how that works. I think, though, also being authentic doesn't mean that you have to say every single thing that comes to your mind. Like, if I have an opinion about something, but I know it would hurt someone else's feelings and they're not doing anything to actively hurt anyone else or hurt themselves, like, I might not say something about it to their face. I might tell someone else, like, oh my God, that's so annoying, da 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 da. Da. And if the other person asked me, hey, did you say that? I'd be like, yeah, I said that. But like, I don't go out of my way to like hurt people's feelings. Like that's not authenticity. That's just like being an asshole. Like you can show up and be your authentic self and be honest without being an asshole at the same time. Finding balance, I think, is the secret sauce. I think being authentic and being yourself really just means having the capacity to take a deeper look at yourself, to do surgery on your personality and identify and be able to back up and say, no, this is how I authentically feel about something, or also admitting, yeah, I don't think I actually like that. I think I just like that because so and so liked that. And that's okay to an extent. I think we all do that. We base our lives around that, or we base how we behave on what other people's perception of that might be, and not because it's how we actually react or interact with the world. Living an authentic life also means not being afraid to, one, be wrong and being open to learning and growing. It also means not being afraid of what other people think or other people's judgments. Being authentic means you're not a judgmental person, right? I think oftentimes we worry the most about how we're perceived based off of how we perceive others. We worry the most about being judged because of how judgmental we know that we are. When you don't care about how other people live their lives, when you don't care about how other people interact with the world, when you don't judge people off of what they're wearing or how they look, when you don't judge people based off of their life choices or how they live their life, when you don't judge people, you're not worried about being judged. And that's how you can live authentically in this life. When you don't judge people for going after something they want, even when it doesn't make sense, you're not afraid to go after something you want, even when it doesn't make sense. You're not afraid to be yourself. When you don't judge people for being themselves, you're not afraid to be yourself. And for all the wrongs that Huda has done, God, has she been wrong. And from the very beginning, I said, okay, she should not be on TV. She needs she needs maybe some like therapy or help or support, like, she's maybe not mentally like, she maybe shouldn't be here, like, maybe it's really not healthy for anyone, but really not healthy for her to be here. Despite all the things I disagree with about Huda, she is being herself, and that's why she has endeared the audience, that's why she's gained us back, because through it all, through her mistakes, through everything, she has been herself, and she has not been judgmental. Even though she's said nasty things about women, all different stuff. She was acting out and she wasn't like actually being actually judgmental about people. You know what I mean? Versus Sierra, who is so obviously like whether she knows it or not, is not being herself and not being authentic. Whether people realize it at the beginning or not, has slowly caused her to sour in people's mouths. And now, with this information coming out about the slurs, helps people identify that feeling that they were having about her, helps people identify that, why did I feel uneasy? It's because she's not being herself. And because we can see through that, especially when it's on national television. I guess at the end of the day, being authentic and being yourself means being happy with yourself. It means being confident in the choices that you make. It means being confident in your convictions and in your morals. It means knowing that everything you choose, you're choosing for you and not for other people or out of fear of perception of other people. Well, I better get going so that I can edit this and get this up and so that I can catch the 9 p.m. Love Island tonight because Nicolandria fans, my day ones, we are up. We are up. We are up. It was a little off last episode. The chemistry was off, but it's just because they're really confused and they don't know what to do. But those two people are in love, and it may be right person, wrong time. Unfortunately, it still may be the wrong time, but I'm a hopeless romantic and I'm going to watch these two kids. I'm going to watch these kiddos try and figure it out and love every single bit of it. All right. Happy Babblings Day. See you later. Cheers.